Astronaut's Turf Builder Crabgrass Preventer with lawn food is just $69.99 after rebate. Plus, Field & Forest denim jeans for men, perfect for yard work, are priced right at $9.99 and up. Stock up on all your seasonal lawn and garden supplies at the best prices guaranteed at Fleet Farm.
The Census Bureau says more than 12,000 Americans turn 65 each day. It's a surge they call Peak 65, the highest number in history. Some Annex clients retire early. Some keep working because they love it. You know why? Because they've got custom plans built by fee-only fiduciaries. They identified their wants and needs, and we went to work. We want to do the same for you. Annex does financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Visit AnnexWealth.com and click the Get Started button.
This March, Heiser Automotive Group is putting the pedal to the metal with our Accelerate Your Refund sales and service event. Tax season is the best time to upgrade your ride or take care of your current vehicle. And we're making it easier than ever to turn your tax refund into turbocharged buying power. Accelerate into a newer used vehicle or get essential repairs and maintenance done. Plus, with Heiser's exclusive Safe and Sound program, you can buy and service with confidence, convenience, and peace of mind. Visit Heiser.com today.
See dealer for complete details.
Alleviate your pain, rejuvenate your life.
Rejuvenex.com. The Bucks' next West Coast trip begins in the Golden State against the Warriors.
Hands off to Giannis. Giannis down low, stuffs it down with a one-hand slam.
Our coverage starts tonight at 8:30. We are your home for the Milwaukee Bucks. News Radio 620 WTMJ, Milwaukee.
At 9:01, it's 44 degrees. Your high temperature today is going to depend on where you are. 40s north of Milwaukee, 60s south. Here in Milwaukee, we're looking at a high today of 53. From the WTMJ Breaking News Center, I'm Adam Roberts. Happening today, President Trump expected to speak over the phone shortly with Russian President Vladimir Putin regarding ongoing negotiations with Ukraine.
President Trump is expected to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin this morning as the U.S. pushes for a ceasefire in Russia's war in Ukraine. The president Monday called this a very important call and said this is now a very critical stage in negotiations. President Trump said he and Putin would discuss land concessions, power plants, and dividing up assets. He has repeatedly said he believes Ukrainian President Zelensky does not have the cards in the negotiations to end the war. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Back at home, Decision Wisconsin early voting has begun across the state ahead of the April 1st spring election. Each municipality in Wisconsin does set its own early voting process that includes dates, polling places, and hours. Voters who need to register or re-register to vote can only do so at an early voting location between now and March 28th. There's several important statewide ballot items this spring, including the race for an open state Supreme Court seat between Dane County Judge Susan Crawford and Waukesha County Judge Brad Schimmel, as well as the state superintendent of schools. That race between Democratic incumbent Jill Underly and GOP-backed education consultant Brittany Kinzer. And a proposed constitutional amendment is also on the ballot, asking voters to decide whether existing voter ID laws in Wisconsin should be enshrined in the state constitution. The saga of school resource officers at Milwaukee Public Schools has come to an end, at least in the courtroom.
Now that SROs have officially started the job, the city of Milwaukee has avoided fines and contempt of court, but the state legislature still wants an insurance policy down the road.
To prevent MPS or the city from backing out of this.
Representative Bob Donovan tells WTMJ he hopes the Senate and Governor Evers will move his bill forward, which threatens financial penalties for noncompliance.
Any law that is passed that doesn't include some consequences for breaking that law isn't worth the paper it's printed on.
Jessica Gatso, WTMJ News.
Astronauts Butch Gilmore and Sonny Williams, who had been at the International Space Station for 9 months, they're now on their way home for a 17-hour return trip to Earth. News Nation's Brooke Schaefer has more.
We don't have the exact splashdown location just yet. NASA and SpaceX teams are still watching the weather at their different sites. That always plays a role in all of this. But as that Dragon spacecraft starts falling toward its splashdown zone, What we'll see is a series of parachutes that are going to start to open up. Those will slow down the spacecraft even more, letting it touch down into the water. A recovery vessel will be waiting for that crew.
The astronauts splashed down off the Florida coast, expected at 5 p.m. Central this evening. And another round of possible thunderstorms could move through southeast Wisconsin Wednesday. Storm Team 4 meteorologist Tyler Moore says while the system starts out as rain around the lunch hour, cold air will transition that rain to snow later in the day.
The question is going to be tomorrow evening, how much moisture is still on the backside of the system? That will determine if we just see a light dusting of snow or if we actually get an inch or two potentially of some snowfall coming through. It doesn't look like significant snow, but we could still see that mixing over as we get into tomorrow night.
Your complete WTMJ 5-day forecast coming up in about 4 minutes. Time now for news about your money, the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. All three of the majors in the red this hour. The Dow down 236 points at 41,606. The NASDAQ off 312 at 17,497. And the S&P 500 is down 60 points this hour at 5,615. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Sports, traffic, and weather next. Outdoor Living Unlimited WTMJ News Time is 9:05.
WTMJ's Eric Bilstead here for QC Kinetics. You know, I get a lot of questions about QC Kinetics treatments, people asking if they should consider it for their own joint pain. Well, here's how you know. If you answer yes to any of these questions. Is your quality of life impacted by chronic pain in your knees or hips or shoulders or other joints, trouble sleeping or walking? Do you want to avoid surgery, a long recovery, and uncertainty that comes with it? And most importantly, do you miss doing the things you love because joint pain is holding you back? If you answered yes to any of these questions, don't wait. Call now. Call QC Kinetics and ask for your free consultation and learn how the latest advances in regenerative medicine can help you get lasting relief. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. 414-285-3474. Call QC Kinetics today for your free consultation. 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. Call QC Kinetics today.
St. Vincent de Paul Thrift Stores has been voted the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's Best in Thrift. So to all who voted for us, thank you. And to those who haven't yet been here, there are so many items to explore. And at thrift store prices, you can find a really great deal. At the same time, you'll be helping us help others, sometimes folks right in your own neighborhood. St. Vincent de Paul Thrift Stores on Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield, 23rd in Lincoln, and 76th and Bradley Road in Milwaukee.
You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
Is outdoor living limited at your place? Well, imagine a deck, a patio, pergola, fire pit, maybe even an outdoor kitchen in your yard. Outdoor Living Unlimited is a local, family-owned company that consults, designs, and builds these things. They're the best. Let them make outdoor living unlimited in your yard like they did in ours. We are Wisconsin. We live outdoors as much as possible. Make the most of it with help from Outdoor Living Unlimited. See OutdoorLivingUnlimited.com.
Time for a WTMJ Sports Update from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Desk. We've got Brewers baseball for you from the desert this afternoon. Brewers taking on the Mariners. Our coverage starts at 3 here on your home of the Brewers, WTMJ. While spring training continues, the MLB regular season officially began today overseas in Japan. Dodgers beating the Cubs 4-1 at the Tokyo Dome. And Bucks Warriors tonight in San Francisco. Bucks center Jericho Sims undergoing surgery Monday to repair a torn ligament in his thumb. He's expected to be sidelined for about 4 weeks. Our coverage from the Bay Area tonight begins at 8:30 on your home of the Bucks, WTMJ. Let's check the roads now. Your WTMJ Johnson & Sons paving time saver traffic. We've got the right lane blocked just into the traffic center now on 894 East at 27th Street. Broken down vehicle there. Looks like it's a semi, so that's got the right lane blocked on the bypass. Elsewhere, we've got ourselves another broken down vehicle being attended to 4145 South at North Avenue. As far as slow spots looking right now, 894 as you head south from Greenfield to about looks like all the way to Cleveland and National. You're going to be a little slow tapping the brakes. And also then on 43 from about Center Street as you head north up to Capitol Drive. And your WTMJ forecast for today, mostly cloudy. Again, a lot of temperature fluctuation. Depends on where you are. If you're north of Milwaukee, you may struggle to hit 50 degrees today. South of the city, we could hit the 60s. And if you're right in Milwaukee proper, looking at a high of about 53. Mostly cloudy tonight, down to 40. Watching for a messy Wednesday. Rain and storms likely earlier in the afternoon, then mixing to snow at night, a high of 53. Early snow Thursday, high of 40. 54, partly cloudy, some late rain chances Friday. Partly cloudy Saturday, and a high of 41 degrees. That's where we sit right now in Madison with cloudy skies. In Green Bay, it's 43 and cloudy. Waukesha, clouds and 47. And in Milwaukee, cloudy skies and 45 degrees. I'm Adam Roberts. Outdoor Living Unlimited WTMJ News Time is 9:09.
Good morning, Wisconsin. So let's pour that coffee and talk to some experts about what's going on in Milwaukee, Madison, Washington, and beyond. Broadcasting live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios at the Avenue in beautiful downtown Milwaukee. It's the Political Power Hour on WTMJ. Here's your host, Steve Scaffidi.
Should we talk about the government?
Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Political Power Hour on 620 WTMJ. We often start with James Wiggerson, conservative writer who joins us on the phone. Good morning, James.
Hey, Steve.
James, this afternoon, I'm going to be talking to both candidates for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Interviews that we're going to play in their full interview on the Wednesday program with Susan Crawford from Dane County and Judge Brad Schimmel from Waukesha County. As you look at this race, James, with basically 2 weeks to Election Day, what are your thoughts? What are your takeaways? What are we going to see in the last 2 weeks? We already know this is going to be record spending, apparently $100 million of spending on this race, most expensive ever, according to Journal Sentinel. What are your thoughts?
My first thought is I wish that the streaming services would go back to not showing any commercials.
I agree.
Even I'm getting sick of the commercials I'm seeing.
Yeah, I agree.
But my second thought is that we've reached a point where you can see the strategy going into the closing weeks. Crawford is desperately trying to tie Schimmel to Elon Musk and Donald Trump in an effort to make this a national race with national implications. It's not a race about the Supreme Court. It's a race about sending a message to the White House and sending a message nationally that the Democrats are unhappy with the way things are going in Washington, D.C. And that's really not what a Supreme Court race should be about. But then on the flip side of it, you've got Brad Schimmel, who's doing the best that he can to try and paint Susan Crawford as this soft on crime liberal and as somebody who has worked against voter ID and is going to try to legislate from the bench. You can see that those are the two strategies going into the final weeks. It'll be interesting to see if we actually have a visit from Elon Musk or Donald Trump in the last 2 weeks. If it does happen, it probably won't happen in southeastern Wisconsin.
Do you agree, James, that this race is about turnout, and if people are excited, let's just say on the left that people want to send a message to Donald Trump, they'll turn out for that. Do you see any echoes of the last Protasiewicz, Kelly race? Anything on that front?
Well, every race is slightly different, but I would say that there is a certain amount of, again, trying to tie Brad Schimmel to the National Republican Party. And in that sense, it's an echo of what Protasiewicz did to Dan Kelly, tying Dan Kelly to the whole Donald Trump effort to overturn the 2020 election and things like that. Certainly, they had more to work with in the case of Dan Kelly, I think, than in the case of Brad Schimmel. In the case of Brad Schimmel, it's just the amount of money that's coming in. But the same thing can be said about Susan Crawford, is that the amount of money that she's getting spent on her behalf would make her beholden to national Democratic interest, too, if we were to play that game and equate the two. But that is really where they're trying to go to. They want to replay the Dan Kelly playbook.
Do you think the issues of this race, what happens with Act 10, what happens with the 1849 abortion law, some of the other big decisions looming in that will be in front of this court either before August or certainly when the new court is seated in August, or is it about the people? Is it Susan Crawford, as some people say, liberal Dane County judge, or Brad Schimmel, tied to the Walker administration. He was Attorney General. He's sort of a law and order guy. I know Brad a little bit. I have to be completely honest about that. I've emceed events that he's been a part of, either him or his band. I see it sort of in that way that for just me, and this is just me talking, you can certainly have a different opinion. I don't know Susan Crawford, but I certainly know Brad Schimmel. And that comfortability with the messaging from Brad, regardless of the money spent, and sort of his link to what was a pretty popular run in Wisconsin, whether you're a big fan of Act 10 or not, Scott Walker administration, and that could carry him through the election in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that to the extent that it is about personalities, we have to remember that Brad Schimmel narrowly lost his race in 2018. It was extremely close. Unlike some other Republicans, he decided not to contest the election. He recognized that he lost. He didn't scream foul. He didn't scream fraud. In fact, he said quite the opposite. And I think that in that sense, Brad Schimmel, and I think you can say this too, he is probably the epitome of a normal Republican. Whereas I don't know Crawford, but that tells you how much that the race is really not about the personalities, because you have all this outside money, and what they're doing is they're painting these people, both candidates, in portraits that are not very pretty and certainly not recognizable to the people that would know them.
James, what's the likelihood that whatever happens in 2 weeks, this edition of the Wisconsin Supreme Court, before August, rules on or makes decisions on Act 10 and or the abortion law?
Well, I think that given the Democratic makeup of the current state Supreme Court, they would do their best to try to speed things up, to try to get those cases resolved before Schimmel would take office in August if he wins. It may be a little bit slower process if by chance Crawford wins. It's all about counting the noses, unfortunately, rather than hearing the legal theories.
All the polling suggests it's a close race. Real quick before the break here, who wins, Schimmel, Crawford?
My gut feeling right now is that it's still Schimmel's race to win, just because he has run a statewide race before. He has experience campaigning all around the state. He's been campaigning longer and harder than Crawford, and it's just, that's my gut feeling. But it could go either way. When we talk about elections, depending on turnout, we're talking about two races that are being run that depend on turning out their base more than appealing to the middle. And who could ever crank up the anger and frustration on their own side to get out the vote, that's the side that's going to win. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Trump people are still revved up and ready to go, especially outstate.
He is James Waderson, conservative writer. Great work. We'll talk about that after the break. You're listening, of course, to 620 WTMJ Political Power Hour.
The Upswing with Jeff Sherman.
Dr. Kimo Ayun, president of Marquette University. When you got that call, walk me through that and how it all happened.
So, Mike Lovell, when I met with him and I understood his vision, I walked out of that meeting, my very last meeting in the interview process, and called my wife and said, this suddenly got very real.
Weekdays from 10 to 11 on WTMJ. Presented by Horicon Bank, the natural choice for all your banking needs.
We love being a trusted friend in the community for those who need an attorney but don't know where to turn. Our clients aren't the kind of people who typically bring lawsuits. Our clients have been hurt in a crash or accident and need our help and advice. I'm Jeff Zergabel of Pasternak and Zergabel. Frank Pasternak and I are injury lawyers living, working, and giving back in our community. When you need help from exceptional personal injury lawyers, go to Pasternak and Zergabel at injurywisconsin.com.
Broadway's smash hit, the Neil Diamond musical, A Beautiful Noise, is coming to Milwaukee. The true story of a kid from Brooklyn, destined for something more, featuring all the songs you love, including America, Forever in Blue Jeans, and Sweet Caroline. Like Jersey Boys and Beautiful, the next musical mega hit is here. The Neil Diamond musical, A Beautiful Noise, March 25th through 30th at the Marcus Center. On sale now at marcuscenter.org.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here for Vita Hearing Care. They've made a difference in my life. They changed my life. I can hear better now, thanks to the incredible faux neck hearing aids that I have, and you can check these bad boys out, too. There's a very cool event coming up. It's a VIP lunch and listening event. It's free. It's March 19th at Mealy Cafe in Racine over the lunch hour. It's going to be very cool, but you need to reserve your spot. It's free. Call 262-800-1060, 262-800-1060. Let them change your life at Vita Hearing Care.
Continue our conversation with James Wigderson, conservative writer. Where can folks find your great work, James?
Oh, they can find me on Substack, James Wigderson. Just look me up there. It's Wigderson Library and Pub is the name of the blog. And I publish a newsletter at least twice a week.
And it's not just about politics. And James and I just had a nice, fun conversation on my Scaffidi podcast about travel, because James and his lovely wife, Doreen, are well-traveled and have gone around the world, just like my wife, Kathy, and I have done. So fun podcast if you like travel and you enjoy listening to James. That's available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, James. Interesting case. I had my legal scholar on Thursday's program of last week. We're talking about Mahmoud Khalil, Columbia University student, now in federal custody, threatening expulsion from this country because of protests. His supporters say he hasn't done anything. His critics say he's here not as a citizen, as a guest of the United States, and as a student. He was obviously very vocal in these protests, may or may not have had criminal activity involved. Your thoughts on that case and what it means for this country, especially the issue of free speech?
Yes, my concern is that the Trump administration has made this a case about that Khalil is definitely on the wrong side of the Israel-Hamas issue, that he's a Hamas supporter, and that he may be anti-Semitic. But they haven't pinned him down to any specific activity that would be criminal or any sort of violence. They have not made that case. They have only made the case that he's just undesirable to be here because of the things that he believes and the things that he says. And I got to tell you, if we're going to start throwing people out of this country for having unsympathetic views, for being sympathetic towards terrorist organizations, there were a whole lot of Irish bands this last weekend for St. Patrick's Day singing songs about the IRA. I guess they're all getting tossed too. And the next time that U2 wants to come to the United States, we're going to have to tell Bono, we're going to stop him at the airport, and he and the boys are going to have to go back to Ireland because they can't sing Sunday Bloody Sunday anymore.
An emailer, James, said to me, okay, so cases like this, or cases like the people that were flown out of the country over the weekend, where there's not a due process involved, or if there is one, we're not being really made aware, do threaten our system of justice in this country, and that could symbolize sort of the attack mode of the new Trump administration. Do you agree with that assessment, or are we at least not knowing the full details at this point?
Oh, there is no due process in this. We just had a case, for example, at Brown University, a professor there was recently stopped on her way back into the country. She's a citizen of Lebanon, but she's a professor at Brown. She's a specialist in kidney treatments, of all things. And they stopped her and they sent her back because she attended a funeral of a Hezbollah leader. Now, I got to tell you, a Lebanese citizen attending a funeral of a Hezbollah leader, what a shock. And again, if we're going to start screening people that way, and we just kick them out of the country. And in her case, they actually did try to get a judge to stop the Trump administration, but supposedly the order didn't get to the airport in time to stop her from being thrown onto a plane and shipped off to Paris before she goes back to Lebanon. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. We had another case where they're sending back people allegedly part of a terrorism group from Venezuela, and again, no trial, no hearing, and when the judges tried to stop it so that we could have a hearing and see what their actual status is, oh, it's too late. The plane's over international waters. That is the game that the Trump administration's playing, and it should scare the heck out of everyone. My daughter has a friend that's here from India. She's afraid to say anything in her classes right now because she's afraid that she is not going to be able to go back and forth between here and her home country. And the scary part in all this is Trump supposedly said that he wanted people that once they got their advanced degrees from our universities, they should automatically get green cards. Well, these are the people that he's throwing out of the country. The one person I mentioned, going back to Lebanon, she has a doctorate. The other person, this Khalil, he has a master's degree. We're throwing them out of the country, even though they have advanced degrees. This is ridiculous.
One of the bigger questions that people are starting to have, including my legal scholars on Thursday, is this president seems intent on when rulings go against him, just ignoring those rulings. And there's a lot of bigger questions that are going to be asked of the U.S. Supreme Court. And it's not too far-fetched to think that if the Supreme Court rules against this administration, against Donald J. Trump or one of his agencies or decisions, that he may just say, you know what, presidential authority, I'm not going to do anything about it. That seems to me a higher level of risk than any of the stuff we're already talking about.
Well, remember, he was given a get-out-of-jail-free card by the U.S. Supreme Court. They told him that he would be immune from criminal prosecution as long as he was acting as the President of the United States. Well, these are actions he's taking as the President of the United States. Whether or not they're illegal has to be decided in court, but he is not going to face any repercussions for anything that he does, and he knows it. And he's promised his supporters pardons. That if they break the law in his name, he will grant them pardons just as he did the January 6th protesters.
Yeah, interesting thing is we are just 2+ months out of the inauguration of Donald Trump's second term, and we're already talking some pretty fundamental issues of constitutional authority and the power of the president. James, always enjoy our conversations. We'll do it again in a couple weeks.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. James Wignerson, great writer. We are going to continue the conversation. Jeremy Janine, UrbanMilwaukee.com will join us after the break.
While your little Splash Brothers phase was cool and all, don't forget that the Splash Mountain stands above all.
Lopez going to cast up a long three, and he splashes it through.
The Bucks head to the Bay to take on the Warriors.
Splash Mountain is locked and loaded tonight. The rides are free. 4 of 5 from distance.
Our Bucks Radio Network game day coverage starts tonight at 8:30. We are the home of the Bucks. WTMJ.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi for Advent. I love talking about Advent because they changed my life. They can change your life as well. Poor sleep, tossing and turning, snoring, the big S word. Crazy that we put up with that. I said, you know what? I'm not doing that. I went to Advent about 5 years ago now. 30-minute visit, asked all my questions. They answered my questions. And after a really simple sleep study at home in my own bed, they determined my problem, sinuses and nasal passages in my breathing triangle. After a short procedure done in office, breathing better than ever, sleeping through the whole nights. If you're disruptive to your bed partner, don't live with that reality. Do something about it. We're sleeping through the whole night, both of us, 7 hours for me, almost every night. If you struggle like I used to, take the time to see how Advent can help. Find out how breathing well and sleeping well can make your nights better. Go to adventknows.com. Schedule an appointment today. Don't wait. adventknows.com, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Visit family-owned Ken Michaels Furniture and our in-store design centers where you'll still find beautiful, luxurious, heirloom-quality American-made furniture. Right now, save 30 to 35% store-wide and take advantage of our complimentary design services. Whether you're moving, renovating, or updating, our designers will help your vision become a reality. Visit Ken Michaels Furniture in Brookfield on Capitol Drive and in Greenfield on Highway 100 to save 30 to 35% store-wide today. Sleep better and save more with mattresses from Milwaukee Mattress and Ken Michaels Furniture. Handcrafted in our Milwaukee factory, our mattresses utilize natural materials like cotton cushioning, which dissipates body heat, Joma wool quilts for warm wintry nights and cool summer evenings, and natural latex providing superior conformability and pressure relief for aching joints. Stop in today at any Ken Michaels Furniture store and save up to 50% compared to national brands.
Hey, John Mercure here for Guthrie and Fry Water Conditioning. My reverse osmosis system in my house is fantastic. The water I drink, the water we feed the dogs, the water we cook with is crisp, clean, and clear thanks to Guthrie and Fry's RO system. It's technology that's been around for a long time, but it's the best in the business, and Guthrie and Fry will get it to you. It's affordable, it's effective, and you'll feel a lot better. It's all about the science. Southeast Wisconsin's #1 choice, and my choice is Guthrie and Fry Water Conditioning.
Better water makes a big difference. Guthrie and Fry.
Local news with Adam Roberts coming up in a moment. Before we get to that, Jeremy Janine, UrbanMilwaukee.com. He always sits in on the second half of the Tuesday program. Good morning, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me.
Happy St. Patrick's Day one day late.
Thank you.
Couple Irish guys, as you said, during the break. Non-Irish guys.
Scaffidi and Janine, two great Italian names.
Yeah. So we're going to tee up a bunch of topics, but SROs is going to be first up. Big day in Milwaukee schools yesterday.
Yep, there's now 25 officers deployed to schools. We'll talk about where they are and much more.
Yeah, and there's some interesting comments from the judge in this case, when I read your piece. He's not letting any other judge get his hands on this one. I saw that he was very declarative in his comments.
And there's some logic to that, but there's a little bit of patting yourself on the back, too.
Absolutely. What else are we going to talk about real quick?
We've got an interesting case of a police officer charged with assisting a gang, and for the first time since 2014, something happened in Milwaukee County.
Ooh, that's what they call a tease in the radio business. So we've got that to look forward to. Jeremy and Janine, UrbanMilwaukee.com. We've got local news, as I've said, with Adam Roberts from our newsroom. And before we get to any of that, here is now the latest from ABC News.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. Israel launching airstrikes across Gaza early this morning. They were the deadliest since the start of the 17-month war. The bombs shattering the ceasefire that had been in place since January. This is retired General Doug Lute.
It is a vivid reminder of just how delicate these ceasefires are. And not only the ceasefire here, but the ceasefire that might be in the works, for example, in Ukraine.
President Trump is calling Russian President Vladimir Putin this morning, discussing the ceasefire there. Ukraine has agreed to it. Russia has not. More than 20 million Americans under red flag fire warnings today, with 40 to 75 mile-an-hour wind gusts and extremely dry conditions. The family of a University of Pittsburgh college student who disappeared while on spring break in the Dominican Republic is asking that she be officially declared dead. The last person believed to have seen her alive, another college student from Iowa, claims she was swept away by a wave and that he tried but couldn't save her. This is ABC News.
Outdoor Living Unlimited WTMJ News Time is 9:31. I'm Adam Roberts. You heard Sherry mention red flag warnings across the country. In Green Lake County here in Wisconsin, fire crews are fighting a 420-acre wildfire this morning. They've called it the Big Island Fire. Broke out Monday afternoon at White River Marsh State Wildlife Area and is now burning on state and private lands. 2 residencies evacuated. So far, no injuries or structure losses reported. The DNR is investigating the cause of the fire, but says there were no approved prescribed burns in the area when it began. Decision Wisconsin, early voting has begun across the state ahead of the April 1st election. It runs through March 30th, and each local municipality does set its own early voting process, including dates, polling places, and hours. Statewide ballot items of note include the race for an open state Supreme Court seat, as well as the race for state superintendent of schools, and a proposed constitutional amendment asking voters to decide whether existing Wisconsin voter ID laws should be enshrined in the state constitution. And this evening in Oak Creek, the Common Council there will consider the comprehensive plan land use category at a public hearing for a proposed Buc-ee's Travel Center. Residents voicing concerns earlier this year about light and noise pollution at the proposed site near the Milwaukee-Racine County line. Another Buc-ee's has been proposed in DeForest, the village there working with state officials to secure funding still that could include possible legislation. Time now for news about your money. The WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. Still red for the big three this hour. The Dow off 201 points at 41,641. The NASDAQ down 317 at 17,492. And the S&P 500 off 57 points at 5,617. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Checking the roads now, your WTMJ Johnson & Sons Paving Time Saver traffic. Still got an issue on 894 East at 27th Street. Right lane still blocked there due to a broken down semi, so they're working on that one. Also got a broken down vehicle on the exit to Car Ferry Drive from 794 East as you head over the Hone. Everywhere else is looking all right. Earlier delays on 43 North near Center Street have since de-escalated, I guess you could say. And then also on 894, we do still have a little bit of a slowdown south of Greenfield towards National as you head south on the bypass. And WTMJ forecast for today, mostly cloudy. Temperatures going to be varied across the region. 40s north of Milwaukee, 60s south, right around mid-50s in the city today. Mostly cloudy tonight and down to 40. Watching for a rain and possible thunderstorm situation on Wednesday. It'll mix with snow later in the day towards the overnight, high of 53. Thursday, snow early, high of 40. Partly cloudy, late rain chances Friday and 54. And partly cloudy Saturday with a high of 41. Right now in Appleton, cloudy and 43. West Allis, clouds and 47. And in Milwaukee, it's 46 under cloudy skies. I'm Adam Roberts, Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Times, 9:34.
Get prepped and ready for a lush lawn this season with great deals at Fleet Farm. Save $5 on all Scott's Sun and Shade grass seed in convenient 3, 7, and 20-pound bags. Scott's Turf Builder Crabgrass Preventer with lawn food is just $69.99 after rebate. Plus, Field and Forest denim jeans for men, perfect for yard work, are priced right at $9.99 and up. Stock up on all your seasonal lawn and garden supplies at the best prices guaranteed at Fleet Farm.
Are you worried about running out of money in retirement? Wondering about how to pay less taxes? Join me, Tony Drake, for the Retirement Ready Show live every Saturday at noon and Sunday at 7 a.m. on WTMJ 620 or 103.3 FM. We'll talk about smart strategies to help you retire with confidence. Don't miss it.
Drake & Associates LLC is an independent investment advisory firm that offers a variety of different investment vehicles. This commercial is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as individual investment advice. Drake & Associates LLC does not provide legal or tax advice. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.
When you work at St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores, you'll be helping us help others. There are many that need our help, and we need your help to carry out our mission. St. Vincent de Paul is always looking for part-time team members. You'll get competitive pay, benefits, and flexibility in scheduling. So apply online at svdpmilw.org or stop by Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield, 23rd in Lincoln, or 76th and Bradley Road in Milwaukee.
You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
Join your boy Tori Lowe and the Truth Team for our community cleanup on Saturday, April 12th. Go to truthcommunitycleanup.com to sign up to volunteer at one of our 3 cleanup locations. Everyone who joins gets a free lunch provided by Cousin Subs. Register today by visiting truthcommunitycleanup.com. Bring the whole family to help clean our city. The Tori Lowe Cleanup is presented by 1MKE and sponsored by Cousin Subs, Ray's Coca-Cola, Landmark Credit Union, and Waste Management.
Oh, very appropriate music as we welcome in Jared and Janine. You hear them every Tuesday on the program, usually the second half hour. Sometimes we get them a little early. From urbanmilwaukee.com, great local reporting, and Jeremy's one of the best at it. We're going to start with, we teased it a little bit, the SRO story in MPS. This story is, a year plus old, probably older than that, because the controversy before that was, why did you take them out of MPS? Well, they are now back in as of yesterday.
Yeah, we've talked about this, I think, every week for the past couple of months, and I think we're finally at, this was the press pool was talking about this after the hearing yesterday. I think we're finally at the end of where this is leading every news hit. And what happened yesterday is the Milwaukee Police Department confirmed that they have deployed 25 school resource officers, SROs, as required. They were required to do by January 2024. Don't look at your watch. You're going to be 15 months late. They're at 11 different schools, which is interesting, and we'll unpack that in a moment. But the officers are there. MPS, during a hearing yesterday, largely just got to bypass the hearing. The scrutiny was placed on the city. We have the plaintiff making statements that she's still concerned about where the officers are assigned.
And the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty.
Yes, her attorneys at the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty are also, I don't know that her counsel raised the concern about where they are, but she was very explicit that she wanted to see them.
Interesting quote in your story. Direct quote, David Borowski, the judge in this case. Frankly, this only happened because of the immense pressure I put on the city, using the I word.
David Borowski is a very outspoken judge, and you can find lots of examples of that. at the same time, he deserves a lot of credit here. He is
does.
the one that escalated the temperature.
So, okay, so this ends the $1,000 per day. What did that end up being? Do you remember, or do you know?
Well, it ended up being zero because it was on February 27th, it was $1,000 per day if you don't do this by yesterday.
So they didn't have to pay that fee. From all accounts, and I heard some reporting on our station this morning, pretty quiet yesterday, and as quiet as MPS can be. So every school has issues, not just MPS. Do we know long-term and this is just me asking this question, do you think that this impacts any actions maybe by the Wisconsin State Legislature who are not happy about this year-plus delay?
They being the Assembly, there's the Senate still has to go through its own version, have a bill pending now that would add actual penalties. A big part of this issue is this 25 officer requirement came apart as part of the sales tax legislation. But it didn't identify who was supposed to pay, which Borowski settled that by making it 50-50, and it didn't institute any penalties. Well, the bill before the Assembly would add actual penalties for failing to comply.
The new superintendent, Brenda Casilius, she just started, so she's handed this issue. Did she make any public comments?
I wasn't at her appearance yesterday. We have a coverage on our website from Terry Falk, who I believe they did talk about it a little bit. I feel a little bit bad for her because yesterday was really her first day on the job, and she got a bit upstaged by this. But she did a public appearance. She has accelerated her start at MPS, which I think is an encouraging sign of someone that wants to make change.
Hopefully that's the case. Last thing on this before we take a break, and then we'll get to another police-related story. Borowski, the judge in this case, also indicated he would not let any other judge put their hands on this case, which is not unusual, but he was pretty forceful in how he said that.
There was a lot of discussions at the end of the hearing about, do we dismiss this or do we hold it open for a scheduling conference? Because he even was like, I haven't seen any indication that this could happen, but I'm a bit concerned MPS or MPD could walk away from this or not quite fulfill it. He kept it on kind of an expedited schedule by saying, I'm going to keep this in my courtroom. If it didn't stay in his courtroom, you'd have to get a whole new judge up to speed on the case. We saw that actually with the Northridge case where it changed judges and it just dragged it out even further.
So good news if you're a fan of SROs, as I am, and at least, what is the number, 25 in some schools. There were some questions about the schools, where they were at. Not enough. Some people argue, some critics of the 25 number. Any movement on that at all?
The police department yesterday indicated there's 11 schools where officers are assigned in pairs. If you're doing math, and this is dangerous for a journalist on the radio, that's 22. There's a group of 3 officers who are not unassigned, but they don't have a permanent assignment. I was told by Heather Huff, the chief of staff of the police department, that it's kind of a day-by-day figuring out where those people are needed and that these assignments are not final. The 11 high schools they're at could change.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. Maybe they get moved around depending on need or just the general idea of just distributing this, what I think is a good resource, school resource officers. He is Jeremy Janine from UrbanMilwaukee.com. After the break, a police-related story which frankly doesn't shine a great light on one member of the Milwaukee Police Department. That's next on 620 WTMJ.
We love being a trusted friend in the community for those who need an attorney but don't know where to turn. Our clients aren't the kind of people who typically bring lawsuits. Our clients have been hurt in a crash or accident and need our help and advice. I'm Frank Pasternak of Pasternak & Zergabel. Jeff Zergabel and I are injury attorneys living, working, and giving back in our community. When you need help from exceptional personal injury lawyers, go to Pasternak & Zergabel at injurywisconsin.com.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi for Heiser Automotive. You know the story, right? I've been driving their great vehicles for, more than 5 years now. Right now, driving for the last few days, a Chevy Silverado 2023 pre-owned. I always like to mix in the pre-owned experience because they are as awesome as the new ones are. And this one is a awesome 2023 Chevy Silverado. Beautiful glacier blue metallic. If you have not seen this color, ask them about it. Looks awesome. Easy to find in a parking lot. The big feature for me, as someone who loves driving a truck, a lot of room, but 2, great gas mileage. 24 city, 29 highway. That's one of many reasons why this is a great, great truck to drive and to own, pre-owned or new. They got both. You can visit Heiser at certainly Heiser.com. Check out all of their great options there for service appointments, body shop work, oil changes, checking out their inventory, all available to you. That's why they can say every day at Heiser, today's your day.
Woo! Hey, Hey, this is Ben Brust from Kyle Brust and Nortman on ESPN Wisconsin. People can't stop screaming about the Screamin' Sicilian frozen pizza, and no wonder. There's plenty to scream about, like the buttery stone-fired crust, secret recipe tomato sauce, mounds of whole milk mozzarella, and tons of premium toppings. Find Screamin' Sicilian in your local grocer's freezer and find out for yourself why Sport called Screamin' Sicilian's Holy Pepperoni frozen pizza the best of the best. Screamin' Sicilian, taste what all the screamin' is about.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here for Landworks. Take a look outside and imagine the yard of your dreams. What do you see out there? Thriving plant life, immaculately edged beds, beautiful, healthy blooms. I got this at my place. It's thanks to Landworks. Take the guesswork out of your green space with landscape services from a good local company, Landworks. Their personalized landscaping plans are carefully designed to make your property shine throughout the season. Plan it now. Now's the time to contact Landworks today, the teams I trust in my yard. LandworksWisconsin.com.
Academic Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 255368.
Don't settle for a flimsy bank pre-approval. Get the pre-approval listing agents and sellers recognized as better than the rest. The rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval from AccuNet. Get yours by clicking on the blue button at accunet.com.
Are you ready to shake things up at Potawatomi Casino Hotel, Milwaukee? All you gotta do is toss your rewards card into your favorite slots for drawing entries and a chance to be in the Roll for Riches game show. What's on the table? Oh, just $300K in cash and prizes. Play this March, and Thursday nights, you could get on a winning streak that, frankly, you deserve. Let it ride and Roll for Riches. Only at Potawatomi. More info online. Must be 21 and a rewards member to play.
Continuing my conversation with Jerry Janine, UrbanMilwaukee.com. How can folks subscribe to UrbanMilwaukee.com?
This is a great week to subscribe because we have a Marquette Madness-related special going right now, but on UrbanMilwaukee.com, there's no ads if you're a subscriber, access to our paywalled stories, and a lot more content.
And I get to read a lot of things as part of my job duties here, but it is one of the greatest sources for local news that we have in the city. There are others, of course, Journal Sentinel being one of those. And other publications, but it sort of gives you the detail you need because we can't all go to these meetings. And I think this is sort of the prideful thing I have in what media can still do, and you guys do a great job, and you do a great job. All right, this is not a happy story by any stretch of the imagination. Here's the headline story you wrote this week. Milwaukee police officer charged with using position to help gang. Explain.
And this is a single police officer, and everything we say is alleged, and almost every fact we're going to offer is going to come from a criminal complaint filed by the FBI. But
serious case, though.
Very serious. Jawan Madlock, 29-year-old, about a decade veteran of the Milwaukee Police Department, now former, he did resign in the process of being investigated, is alleged to have aided and abetted a friend in several different ways involving stolen cars, involving providing fake license plates, involving modifying handguns to become machine guns, which was a little bit of an education to me, lying to a federal agent, obstruction.
FBI agent.
Yes. So the most serious offenses in terms of his penalties relate to the gun offenses, but the most concerning things in terms of just general public safety are the information he was providing to a wanted fugitive about how to not get arrested.
Yeah, aiding or abetting 7 federal offenses. You mentioned a couple of them: lying to a federal agent, obstruction, sale or receipt of stolen goods, and misprision, which I'm not even sure what that word means.
Yeah, I had to have a little.
Did you Google it?
Yes, I had to admit. I was like, I know this word, and it is the concealment of one's knowledge of a felony act.
All right, so we all learned something today. Yeah, actually, now that I'm reading the end of that sentence, it's right there. Possession of a firearm by a felon. So an individual, it's not indicting the police force, it's an individual who's no longer a member of that force. When you see stories like this, you wonder, how did this person survive through the process of, one, getting into the Milwaukee Police Department, but two, maintaining that presence for 10 years?
My question is, when did this start? And the way the investigators learned of this is they went to arrest this wanted fugitive in February at a house in Greenfield, and they found a phone, and they found all these exchanges with someone on this phone. And then they quickly pieced together that they're with a police officer. And the criminal complaint, it's 30-some pages long. It excerpts a bunch of these exchanges, and it exposes how they allegedly would work to steal the car, and then the police officer, Madlock, would find not that exact car, but a similar car, a white Lexus, and would print, apparently, temporary plates to avoid getting pulled over. So it looked like it was a legal car on the streets, and then they would sell it. And there was discussions of prices. There was discussions of shell catchers, a way to avoid leaving evidence at a crime scene.
What was the reaction of Milwaukee's police chief, Jeff Norman?
Milwaukee Police Jeffrey Norman offered a pretty stern reaction. I will read from it if I can find it quickly in my article, and actually I can't at the moment. I'm trying to skip my article.
I can
quickly.
read the quote.
Go ahead,
He expects
please.
all members, sworn and civilian, to demonstrate the highest ethical standards in the performance of their duties, and was extremely disappointed to learn about the misconduct in this case.
I think the good thing from a public policy standpoint, or from the police department standpoint, is Madlock resigned right away.
Yeah.
We don't have this question about firing this guy or paying this guy while he's out on leave. The mayor said he believes it's an isolated incident. Everything in the criminal complaint suggests there was no cooperation by any other police officer. In fact, Madlock, part of the things laid out in the complaint, he was identifying his police officers to the wanted fugitive.
Yeah, I think this demonstrates that as much as I'm a big fan of public safety professionals and law enforcement, local law enforcement and national, when there are outlier cases like this that are certainly breaking the law and individuals who are not serving the public interest, there's a process and a way that this has to be handled. Looks like in this case, according to your reporting, this was done the right way.
It seems like it. The one concerning thing for me, well,
Sure.
two concerning things. One, how they just kind of found it by dumb luck arresting this guy, but that might signal that they are going through phones and doing good searches when they are arresting people. The other thing is this, I think this will be a public policy loophole to be closed, is this temporary license plate printing to avoid detection of stolen vehicles.
Sometimes we learn about things and then we have to react accordingly, and maybe that means that we have to tighten up our procedures. He is Jeremy Janine, UrbanMilwaukee.com. One more segment with Jeremy. We're going to be talking about something we haven't talked about in the case of Milwaukee County in a long time. What is that? That's next.
Whatever you want to call this season, we're over it. Time to look forward to
Fly ball, right field. It is deep. It is gone!
spring training is finally here and back on the radio.
Christian Yelich over the batter's eye in center, and the Brewers lead it 1.
Make sure to catch our next spring training broadcast as the Brewers take on the Mariners Tuesday at 3. No matter the season, we are the home of the Brewers. WTMJ.
Hey, this is WTMJ. Steve Scaffidi for Milwaukee Weight Loss. Why am I talking about Milwaukee Weight Loss? Because they changed my life in the last few months. I have lost 35 pounds, just 35 pounds. The cameras show it. I hope they do. It's the secret to losing up to 1 pound of fat every day. Their doctors have developed easy-to-follow weight loss program. I followed it. If I can, you can. You can lose weight fast, naturally, safely, with no drugs, no injections, no prepackaged meals, no serious side effects, the bars, shakes thing. You don't even have to exercise. I choose light walking, try to do it at least every day, a little bit. But that is resetting your metabolism so you can keep the weight off for good, and I'm in the program for a year. That's how it works, folks. And if you want to lose 20, 30 pounds with Milwaukee Weight Loss, look at me. I'm a success story. You can be too. It's crazy to watch your body lose that weight. Schedule a free consultation. Yes, free. Everybody asks, is it free consultation? You bet. Call 262-449-1180 or go online at MilwaukeeWeightLoss.com. That's MilwaukeeWeightLoss.com. Results may vary.
Is outdoor living limited at your place? Well, imagine a deck, a patio, pergola, fire pit, maybe even an outdoor kitchen in your yard. Outdoor Living Unlimited is a local, family-owned company that consults, designs, and builds these things. And they're the best. Let them make Outdoor Living Unlimited in your yard like they did in ours. We are Wisconsin. We live outdoors as much as possible. Make the most of it with help from Outdoor Living Unlimited. See OutdoorLivingUnlimited.com.
WTMJ's Vince Vitrano here for Shopco Optical. Get eyewear for everything you do at Shopco Optical. Schedule your annual comprehensive eye exam, check out new frame styles, and order your annual supply of contact lenses all in one place. Enjoy the time and attention your eyes deserve at Shopco Optical. Receive quality eye care and a personalized vision solution tailored to your specific vision and lifestyle needs. Call Shopco Optical or visit shopco.com to schedule an appointment at a location nearest you.
For over a century, local radio has evolved with the needs of the community. From politics to pop culture, we keep you informed, bringing you the most relevant news, online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station.
I did it my way.
I try to do that every day. Steve Scaffidi here with you on the Political Power Hour. Sorry, Frank. Jeremy Janine from UrbanMilwaukee.com, my guest this half hour. Here's the headline from Urban Milwaukee. Milwaukee County's population grew for the first time since 2014. Is this a blip in the radar or a trend? What do you think?
I think we're looking at a trend, but we're still looking at Milwaukee County having fewer people than it did in 2014 and a lot fewer people than it did in 1970. We're also looking at the state now growing faster than Milwaukee County.
So what's driving this tick up?
So this is one of the interesting things that's happening because we can compare Milwaukee County to Waukesha County. And then this is based on United States Census Bureau's estimates. In May, we'll get actually a city-by-city look so we can see, is the city of Milwaukee growing or is it Steve in Oak Creek still drawing people that want to be his neighbor? Milwaukee County's growth can be attributed to births outpacing deaths and international migration. And here's the concerning thing is that for Milwaukee County in the year over year, there were 6,000 some people that moved in internationally, but 5,600 domestic migrations. And that means someone might have moved to Waukesha County. They might have moved to Chicago, California, wherever. They don't live in Milwaukee County anymore.
You made the comparison in the piece to Waukesha County. What does their data suggest?
Yeah, so it's natural change, and that's births minus deaths. Where Milwaukee County, that number was 500 some. In Waukesha County, it's only 42. But it's positive migration, both international and domestic, was 2,900. And the interesting thing to really pull apart the data is, are those people coming from Milwaukee County to Waukesha County, or where are they coming from? The one thing, looking from 2020 to 2024, Waukesha County had far more deaths than it did births. So that's a trend of concern for them.
Aging population, probably.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good explanation for it. Fewer kids being born in young parents' households.
Two things. The state seems to be sort of on an upward trend. I guess that's a good thing.
Yes. I looked, the state grew by about 0.5%, whereas the Milwaukee, Waukesha, West Allis metro area was, I think, 0.3%. And I have all these numbers actually written out in my article that there's a lot of moving pieces here. But 16 of the 72 counties in the state actually lost people year over year, and that's a little bit of a concern.
The mayor has talked about his goal, long-term goal of having 1 million people live in the city of Milwaukee. I think we're 580 or something like that right now.
Ballpark, yeah.
And the reason I know this is because I drive down Hull Avenue every day to work or on the way home, and I see that population sign because I'm going from Oak Creek to Milwaukee. I think that it's an interesting goal. And you've talked to the mayor, you've listened to his speeches. I mean, what is the path to get to 1 million people? How is this possible?
The way I've looked at this goal from someone just kind of analyzing it is, if Milwaukee got to 700,000 or even back to, 600,000 is an exception to this, but 700,000, 800,000, I don't think anyone would go, oh, we didn't get to 1 million, failure. It's for the mayor, it seems to all be about messaging a growth mindset. And that goes from business development, zoning, public safety, schools, putting all those things in alignment.
And this is where I get on people are always surprised when I do this. How a city looks is a big factor in people saying, I love the way Milwaukee looked. And if I just happen to be driving along the freeway, going south on 94, got off the freeway, and I know that they do a decent job keeping the freeway area clean. You can see all the garbage bags when they clean that area up. But immediately on the other side of that fence that is often on the edges of freeways, you could probably fill a semi full of garbage. Can we please do something about that garbage? It doesn't seem like it ever gets picked up or addressed. If we're going to care about how the city looks, don't forget, people get off the freeway at some point. And that image, that look, matters. As somebody who, maybe it's an aesthetic that some people don't care about, I do. And all things related to how the city looks, feels, acts are all important, whether it's talking about police, whether it's talking about population, or talking about how something just appears to somebody. Those things matter. Always look forward to our conversation. We'll do it again next Tuesday.
Happy to.
All right. Little tease for tomorrow's program. We are recording interviews today with the two candidates for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Judge Brad Schimmel, Judge Susan Crawford. We'll play those interviews. Cannot wait to have those conversations. We'll bring them to you tomorrow on 620 WTMJ. News is next.
The most common reason pain sufferers come to us is to be able to perform their daily tasks